Welcome to the show both feared and revered by man and beast, the Heliosblog. Today, Andrew Tate in a heated interview. Here we go.
The reason she's alone is because she's difficult.
Women are not accepting the bare minimum.
Women fuck men they respect.
All the women who say things like, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man, like, y'all impress me.
Women just gaslight each other and say what they want to hear.
Strongly for women's rights.
Yeah.
Until you get a trans involved, and then you don't hear anything about the women anymore.
Absolutely.
And it's so absurd.
Yep.
A man cannot compete with a woman.
Yep.
You know, I mean, shouldn't compete with a woman. A
Yep.
woman can't compete with him in sports like that. It's a known fact, but yet they're forcing it on everybody there. And it's, you know what gets me, Andrew, more than anything? Listen, I was on the street. I was a gangster for 20 years. I make no bones about it. That's who I was. But that's who I was. I admit to it.
Yeah.
That's who I was. The hypocrisy in these people right now is what gets me more than anything. They're such frauds and they're such liars. They get up there, and you know what would get me? Politicians get up there now daily, a daily basis. They had a thing, I read an article. In 17 minutes, Biden got on the air and lied 15 times. They fact check him. 15 lies in 17 minutes. And you talk to people about that and they say, well, it's politics. I said, it's not politics.
It's a fraud.
It's lying.
Yep.
Lying.
If your partner lies to you once, maybe twice, third time, fourth time, you're done.
100%.
These guys lie to you every single day and you support it. You say it's politics. It's not. It's lying. And the worst part about it, they lie to the detriment of the people that they're supposed to be benefiting.
Yep.
And that's why I've been ranting and raving about it. You know, I almost lost my tour in the United Kingdom because of this whole thing. I have to believe that I've been very vocal, like you, you know, speaking up for what we think is right.
Yep.
And they're coming after you for it. That's the bottom line.
Well, absolutely, because your ability to speak freely is directly correlated to your insignificance.
Yeah.
You can talk if nobody listens.
Yeah.
If people start to listen, you have to be careful what you say.
Exactly.
And then they'll come along and say, oh, this is a free country. Yeah, you can say what you want. And then they'll attack you anyway if you say things they don't like. The free speech psyop. Well, it's very interesting what you said about lying in politics. I want to talk about that in a second. But the free speech psyop is interesting because America as a country is unified by two things. One is money. And two is this idea of freedom, which doesn't truly exist, I believe. But other nations may be unified by a language or a color or a flag or a national interest, whatever. But America is unified by the idea that most people believe they can get rich one day. And they're unified by this idea that they are freer than everybody else. So I think to keep this scam alive, they have to allow people to do stupid things they can't do in other places. Because you can't truly criticize from a vocal platform the leadership without getting wrecked. That's the same in every country in the world. America's no better. So to pretend they're better than a country like Saudi or Russia, they'll say, but you can change your name and put a wig on. Mm-hmm. So we're free.
Yeah.
So they'll allow you to do insignificant garbage, but they won't allow you to stand up and do anything that's important. And then they'll say, but we're free because look at this garbage you can do that nobody wants to do anyway, unless they're psyoped into it. It's really interesting what you said about politics and liars. That's the ultimate slave mind when you say people go, it's politics. They've got us to a point now where we think it's perfectly acceptable and perfectly normal for the people that we hire to represent us to just lie the entire time.
Exactly.
Disaster.
And I mean, that's fraud, isn't it? I don't know. You're representing my constituency and you vote against our interests every single time.
100% fraud. 100%. Listen, you know, and again, some people say, well, Michael, you were in a mob. I said, exactly. But I didn't pretend to be, fighting for the people.
Yeah.
We were fighting for ourselves at that point in time.
Yeah.
However, I will tell you this. We treated people better than they treat us.
100%.
Sure.
100%. Our communities were safe. Our neighborhoods were safe. We didn't prey on innocent people.
Yeah.
These people, okay, they lie, they get on a campaign, they say this and that, and they get in the office, they totally reverse themselves to the detriment of the people that put them in office. And to me, there's nothing worse than that, Andrew. Nothing worse.
I agree. And then the only way this makes sense is if you look at the political landscape and you understand who they actually work for. Because people say, why are they doing this? I hear often people say, politicians, they're just stupid. If they're so stupid, how come they're in charge of you?
Yeah, they're not stupid.
They're not stupid. You think they work for you. That's your confusion.
Yep.
You think they represent you. Yes. And you're like, why are they doing all these things? That's against my interest. Because you're not their concern. They work for somebody else.
Exactly.
And they're passing laws for their interest. The people who make the rules make rules to benefit the people who make the rules. They don't make the rules to benefit the...
That's like the Roman Empire, straight up.
common average person. You know, I catch myself doing this. A lot of the things I talk about in the world and how I view things, and I'd really be interested in your input on this, because I came from absolutely nothing and now I have a little bit of money. And I occasionally catch myself being elitist. I catch myself being elitist. Like if I meet somebody who I went to school with and we grew up in the same area and we've had the same amount of minutes of life, and I managed to be monumentally successful and they can't pay their bills because they were too busy smoking weed, I don't feel sorry for them very much. I'm actually like, well, you're an idiot. You could have found a way out. You could have tried harder. There's always a way. You didn't try hard enough. And if you extrapolate that out, I'm somebody who was only poor 10 years ago. Imagine you're born into a banking dynasty.
Yep.
Imagine you're born into a lineage of people who have always been rich. Imagine how you're going to view the common man. Mm-hmm. They think we're cockroaches. They don't care about us. They don't.
Literally.
They have
They pass laws to...
no concern for us on any level because they believe they're completely different. They're in a different class. They don't believe in nation states because they're globalist. They're above us in every way. They print the thing that we all slave around and run around for, money. So, of course, they have no concern for us. So when they get a politician in power and they get him to pass laws that are to our detriment, it doesn't cross their mind that that's not what they should do. For the same reason, I'll make a law or I'll make a decision in my house that will be detriment to the ants outside. I don't care. It's my house and it's their world. And this is the reality of it. And I don't know. I'm very interested in how that ties into your story with the mob and getting big and getting rich and getting famous. Did you ever get to a point where you're just like, you know what? You common people, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
You get to that point. Not that you don't want to talk to them, but, you know, listen, we have a tendency to pity people and feel sorry for people. In our country, everybody has an opportunity to do something. There's no question about it. Yeah. And you got to look at somebody's past. If, like you said, they're laying around and they're waiting for somebody to do something for them and expecting something to happen, depending upon the government, well, I don't have any pity for that. You know, I don't. I see so many people like yourself that started with nothing and made themselves successful, but they worked hard. Yeah. And they took advantage of the system when they could, which...
That's... I only hope that all of you listening may have the same success for yourselves.
Which is what you're supposed to do. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's natural. You know, you...
Good. I had to check myself there.
No, you're okay there.
And another thing I think that's getting scary about the world, which is also an interesting thing, and perhaps this is a modern thing. I don't know. But I see a lot of these crimes and a lot of things happening, and I particularly pay attention to British crime because I feel more British than American. I spend most of my time there, and you see stabbings on trains and all of these crazy things happening every single day, shootings, and London's getting really bad. And I was talking to someone, and I said, we're at the point now where you almost just have to avoid broke people. And I'm not saying that in a horrible way. I'm saying you can't get on a train because there's someone on that train who can't pay their bills and is on the edge. That's just the reality of it. You can see it. Someone bumps into them and they just pull a blade and start stabbing people. You can't walk around in crowds. You can't.
It's getting, what's it called? The noose is tightening, as they say. We're going back to, I mean, this is one of my first videos, you know, when I talked about slavery and serfdom, you know, like, God knows how many videos ago, 900 videos ago, I talked about this. But I believe if we're not already in that system, we're back to we are the slaves and there's the kings. And the kings are untouchable. And you just, you know, you're just stuck working their land. That's basically what it is. Unless you can get free, and getting free is incredibly hard. And you might spend your whole life trying and never managing it.
Go where there's huge gatherings because there ends up being a murder or a stabbing or a riot. It's getting to the point where you become more elitist because you're saying, well, I just need to avoid all of the people who don't have a lot of money, and I can avoid 99.9% of the world's problems, besides the government, because then they come for you. Yeah. But it's getting that way, and I don't feel like, you'll know better than me, that the world used to be that way. The common man would be a good person and everything was fine and they loved their family and they had a degree of respect. But in certain towns in England, especially now, if you try and go anywhere and people aren't affluent, they've lost all sense of morality. They just think, oh, okay, well, it just becomes a free-for-all. And it's dangerous. It's getting more and more dangerous to be around or just do a common thing or a normal thing. Public transport, malls, anything. It's getting crazy out there.
Let me ask you a question. Is that, in your view, because there are no consequences for these people?
I think...
Or they've been minimized to a degree where they can get away with it?
That's certainly part of it. But I do believe that humans are intrinsically good. And I think that as we're divided further and further down the scale, which is what's happening, we just end up finding an enemy of some kind. I believe that when you remove the homogeny of society, whether it be race, religion, anything, when you have nothing at all to unify or bind people anymore, you add on the pressure of people not being able to pay
No nationalism.
their bills. You add on the pressure of people slowly realizing how unfair this world is and how unfair all the systems we're supposed to believe in are. I think there's just a lot of pressure on people to just, I don't think a lot of people can take pressure. You can talk from jail. We can talk about our jail. There's a lot of people who wake up and they say, let's take it this way. If you're an immigrant, let's say, and I don't know this, I'm just guessing, because I try and put myself in other people's positions, right? I try and pretend I'm them. If I was an immigrant and I grew up in a strictly Islamic country in a war zone, I'm going to be battle hardened because I've seen terrible things happen. And I'm going to have this view of the West as this utopia of beautiful women and money and all this other garbage, right? And I'm going to leave my land, I'm going to go to England, and I'm going to realize that, one, I don't have really very much money. Other people may have some money, but I don't. Two, nobody really wants to give me a job because I don't have the work ethic they expect of me. Three, the women don't look at me as anything. So all these women who I have a bad view of, I view them as promiscuous because that's what I've seen in the music videos. Yeah. And I go up to them and I'm like, hey, and they're like, go away from me. That offends me. What do you mean go away? Why are you telling me to go away? Because I have this promiscuous view in my mind. You put me with 10 other guys who have no job and we stand around on the corner all day. Like, how is this going to end anything other than crime? How is this going to end any other way? Because you get to a point, especially when you tell them the punishment for what happens to them is probably better than how they lived at home. You're going to say, well, get rich or die trying. And that's inside of every single man anyway. So when you add in the war zone and these other societal levels and these other psychological levels, they just don't care anymore. And how can you police that? How can you stop that? It's scary because the police come afterwards. They can't. The police come afterwards. That's the problem with all of this.
Well, you know what? In America now, they don't even want the police to come. I mean, it's gotten so bad. You know, people have said to me, they had this whole movement. I don't know if you remember one. It was defunding the police. And
genius idea.
You know, I said to them, I said, let me ask you a question. You know, Michael, what do you think about it? You know, you don't like the police. Just stop for a minute. Let me ask you a question. I'm on the street again, right? I'm doing what I'm doing. Rudy Giuliani, everybody knows him. He comes to me, he says, Michael, don't worry about it. You know, if we lock you up on a RICO case, you're going to get out right away. We're not going to give you any bail, no problem, you know? And don't worry about it. Maybe we'll give you a year in jail. Do you think I'm going to become a better person when I hear that, when I'm a criminal to begin with? Of course not.
Yeah.
When there's no consequences to your actions, you're going to go wild.
Yep.
And that's what they don't understand. You need law and order. And I think you believe that also. You've got to have law and order. There's no question about it. And when we're talking about this, and Andrew, I want to be clear with people. We're saying these things because we see something going wrong and we want to fix it. You know, when I go on a rant about our government, because I see them lying and I see them doing it to the detriment of the people, and that's why I get upset, because I happen to love my country.
Yep.
You know, I was born and raised there. Hey, you know, I did what I did, but I understand when I went to jail, I deserved to go to jail back then. You know, different than you.
Yep.
I deserved it when I went to jail. But I love my country. I got 7 kids. I got 7 grandkids. I want the country to be right.
Absolutely.
And when I see these people doing what they're doing and destroying the United States is going down.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you something. If we get another 4 years of this Biden progressive stuff, we're in a lot of time.
I think it's the last chance.
It's it. I'm telling you, it's over.
It's the last chance. And it's really actually a very interesting argument because I completely agree with law and order and I completely agree with you what you're saying.
Freaking disaster.
When I got out of jail, I was analyzing because I'm a very lucky person. God has blessed me with the experience of the Romanian judicial system. So I'm trying to understand other judicial systems around the world. And I was like, well, where is fair? And you start to go down the rabbit hole a bit. Mm-hmm. And you see that there's a lot of countries that have completely different ethoses when it comes to justice. So the American idea and the British idea, the Western idea of justice is innocent until proven guilty. That's the basic idea of justice. In countries like Romania, it's more, everyone goes to jail for a while. Everybody. If you're even remotely suspected of anything, everybody goes to jail for a while. And then we'll let you out. And then in the end, unless you've really done something, you're probably going to go home. So theirs is more scattergun. It's more, you looked in a car window? Well, you didn't break in, but you're looking in. And there was a car break-in yesterday. Tough.
It might be you.
Yeah, that's how they work. Yeah. Now, that obviously comes with detriment because you end up in jail with a bunch of people who perhaps don't belong in jail. But then I look at the society here. We're in the poorest country in Europe. I walk around with $1 million watch. I had a $5 million Bugatti. I'd park it on the street. Women walk home alone at night. It's so ridiculously safe because everyone fears the law. So perhaps it's detrimental, yes. And when you're in the cell, you're like, why am I here? But if you're not emotional about the fact you got caught up in it and you look around, you're like, well, society does function. People always talk about Japan and say, Japan's so safe, Japan's so great, Japan's amazing. Yeah, because there's a 99% conviction rate.
Yeah.
You telling me that innocent people aren't going to jail with a 99% conviction rate?
100%.
What's the even point of the court? The court doesn't exist. You turn up, I did that, yeah, jail. Yeah, jail. Same what happened to me. I went there and I said, TikTok, how can you human traffic someone on TikTok? TikTok doesn't even make money. Yeah, jail. They don't care. So you either fear the law or you have to fear the criminals. In the worst countries on earth, and perhaps we could say this is America currently, you have to fear both because the law will come for you if you're too big and you're telling too much truth. And the criminals will come after you if you're too rich. So you're living there with two enemies.
Right.
You know, that's the worst position to be in. At least in a country like Japan, you know, as long as I don't upset the law, I'll probably be okay.
Yeah, right. Let me tell you what happened to you. It's the same way that guys in organized crime, same thing happens. I'll tell you what happened. Normally a crime is committed and they go out and investigate and find out who the perpetrators are, right? Yeah. When you get to be somebody like yourself, there isn't a crime. They're investigating you, trying to figure out if you did anything wrong.
Correct.
It goes the opposite way.
Yeah.
And that's what they do with guys like us.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a bad guy. Let's figure out what he did.
Yeah.
So they start investigating, surveillance, all that, until they can nail you with something. That's what happened to you.
I think
and I've said this to many people. I said, you don't understand it. You don't know the system, whether you're Romania, US, or it's the same thing. When you get a high profile like that, this is what they do.
100%. They do not get a crime and try and find the name. They get a name and try and find the crime.
Exactly.
And most
Everybody's
people
got
have no idea how all of these things work. They have no idea how ridiculous the legal code is in every country. You don't know the law. You can live in America your whole life. You don't know the law. You may think you know the law, but you don't. And when you go to a court, it's all subjective. They can have a page of law and they can have someone in there at 10 a.m. who goes home and they can have someone in there at 11 a.m. who goes to jail and he can go to jail for 2 years and the next guy in at midday, he goes to jail for 4 years. Mm-hmm. It's all subjective.
Exactly.
And that's what's so scary about it. They tried to pin a bunch of crimes on us. They tried the financial route. They tried this, they tried that. They ended up going for what they went for because it's actually very uniquely human trafficking is one of the only crimes in the world where the victim can say they're not a victim. So with human trafficking, what they can do is come along and get a man and his wife. Say you've human trafficked this woman because you, for financial gain, have convinced her to do something. And with me, it's the lover boy method. By being nice, not by physical coercion, not by beating. They're not even saying that. They're saying he used nice words to convince this girl to do something for financial gain, which I guess is every single employee boss relationship in the world. Yeah. Then when I say I didn't do it, when the girl herself says he didn't do it, they can still, the state can come after you. So you have a victim defending me defending myself, both of us on the same side of the stand, and the state trying to wreck you anyway, no matter what the victim says. Human trafficking
Disaster.
is a unique crime in that regard.
Yeah.
And I guess they're doing it because they're saying that women can be brainwashed or whatever. I don't know how they came up with this idea. Which is another interesting argument. You know what? As I go through this, it's so interesting because I try and highlight the hypocrisies in these things. I say, well, I have daughters and maybe I'm crazy, but they're going to listen to me and I'm going to have a big influence in their life. But we're now living in society in the West where we're saying women shouldn't have to listen to their fathers. Women shouldn't have to listen to their boyfriend. Women are sovereign individuals and come to all their own conclusions because they're adults. Fine. I agree with that. But if that's true, you can't then say that they're so stupid that they'll do anything a man tells them to like this and that they can't tell their own point of view in court and that they're just lemmings. Which one is it?
Yeah, it's one or the other.
It's one or the other. So they're trying to push all of this feminism thing. But the second there's a man they don't like, they turn around and say, women are not sovereign. Women are stupid. They call me a misogynist. The courtroom is misogynistic. I'm sitting in a courtroom where a girl is saying he's never done anything to me. I asked him how to get famous on TikTok because he was famous on TikTok. They put this whole case together based on garbage and stupid YouTube videos he made, and they're trying to take him down. He's never hurt me. I have no problem with him. I don't want this case. I'm saying the same thing, and they're saying, no, she doesn't know what she's saying. Who's the misogynist? The state.
So let me, this goes in front of a jury
actually
here also? How does it work?
It goes in front of a single judge.
Oh.
Yep.
Look at
Welcome
his
to the
face.
judicial system.
Look at his face. The mob, the guy who is in the mob. It's like, yeah, sorry, you're.
And who does the judge work for?
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
Who selected this judge?
Yeah.
And this is another thing that I find so interesting because people
How's he been so far? Because he did eventually let you out, right?
Yeah, so the Romanian judicial system is effectively you have a tribunal judge, you have a singular judge, and then you go to an appeal. And the appeal, which is whether I win, if I win, they appeal. If they win, I appeal. So you always go to appeal, which has 3 judges. And they're all supposed to be randomly selected. I kept running into the same ones. Funny that.
Right.
But it's all supposed to be randomly selected. And they basically have the final call. There's no jury at all and anything. And they just decide everything. And this is what's interesting, that people at home are so ignorant that they believe that a case which is large enough, like look at your case and what happened to you and your people will affect the streets of New York. It'll affect 20 million people. You think they're going to leave that up to someone with a law degree? Do you think they're just going to leave it up to some guy with a gown who studied in a book? Or do you think they're going to say, you know what, there's 20 million lives at stake, so let's just do what has to be done to just fix this.
Right.
You know, that's how the system works.
Yeah.
I'm in the very lucky, fortunate position where my case affects the reputations of a nation. And they can say, oh, it's only Romania. Only Romania. Romania is the fastest growing economy in Europe. It's an EU nation state. It's not as poor as people think it is. You'll drive around and see Lamborghinis, Ferraris, you see penthouses. It's a real place. It's richer. Bucharest is richer than Madrid, Rome, Berlin.
Really?
Per capita. It's a real country. And their reputation's on the line. Do they leave that up to some judge? Just some judge fairly. Just some judge who read a book. Or does someone come along and go, you know what? Even if he didn't do it, just say guilty, just a couple years. We're going to look bad if he walks.
Right.
We're going to look bad if he walks. I mean, there's some people are naive enough to sit and go, no, those conversations don't happen. But those people haven't been in rooms like you and I have been. Because if you've been in the right rooms, you understand those are the exact conversations that happen. That's the whole world.
Exactly.
The whole world is really as simple as people walking into rooms and saying things. That's what government is. That's what education is. That's what the mob is. That's what a business is. It's people walking into rooms and saying, yeah, you do this, I'll do this, and what benefits us? We just talked earlier about how the elite establishment and how they make rules to benefit themselves. I would be flabbergasted. In fact, I would bet my life it is impossible that politicians in Romania have not sat down and go, how are we going to play this out? Because this has become a big mess.
100%.
Of course.
100%. All this backdoor stuff that goes on. You know, it's similar to Trump, one of Trump's case. The guy's got so many between criminal and civil. I've never seen anything like it. But, you know, he sat in a civil case where he was supposedly defrauded a bank. And the bankers got on the witness stand and said, he paid us every single penny.
Yep.
He paid us faster than the loan was due.
Yep.
And we would lend him money again.
Yep.
Lend him money again.
Yep.
And they actually filed a suit against the guy. He lost the case.
This is what people don't understand. Your government.
Freaking disaster.
I've seen some examples of it. There's a few people. I can't remember the name. I'd love to remember the name. But there was a guy who lived on a farm and he was raided by the FBI in the 90s for an illegal firearm or something. And they killed his wife and all this insanity. I don't think people realize just how crazily dictatorial and evil a government can be. And it's a system. It's like a faceless system. You're grinding against this faceless system. And that's what's been also so interesting about my case, because I'm sure Trump has the same thing. I guarantee when Trump walks into that courtroom, the police officer who walks him in there is like, sorry. You know, like the judge may be against it, but everyone else involved in the whole thing are probably, maybe not in New York, I don't know. But in my circumstance, it was very interesting. The cops who arrested me were like, sorry, bro. Yeah. The guy's in jail, sorry. The guy taking me to court, sorry. The police officer driving around, sorry. It's just part of a system. They know it's a setup.
They know. That's why.
They know it's a setup.
Yes.
But it's part of everyone's a cog in this big, huge machine, and nobody can really save you. Yeah. And you're going in and out of jail, and every single person you meet shouldn't be here. I'm like, what? it's insane. I know. And yeah, well, you know. And it's crazy how dangerous it all is. And they're coming for Trump now. And this is the thing. You don't know the law, and the law is so ridiculously subjective. They can get anybody for anything at any time.
100%.
That's what people don't realize. That I have the most ignorant thing you can say is, well, just follow the law. Just follow what? You haven't read the law. How are you going to follow a book you've never read? You don't know what the law is.
Yeah.
And if they want you and they pick you up, you're going to learn very quickly that you've been breaking laws the whole time. Every single person, I guarantee there's nobody who's lived a full year inside of the United States who hasn't broken some law.
I don't think there's anybody that goes through a day without breaking something. There's so many laws on the books that are antiquated, but they're still there. They're still laws.
Yeah.
And they're ridiculous. If you ever read some of these statutes, you'd laugh. You'd say, no, this was probably 200 years ago, but it's still a law on the books.
That's right.
But you know, I tell you this, and people need to understand this. And I know this about you, Andrew, because I've been following closely. We're not ranting because we just, we're revolutionaries. We're not revolutionaries. We see something going wrong.
Yep.
We happen to care about people, care about our families, and we want to make it right.
Yep.
And that's the only thing, that's what this is all about. There's two things that you always have to worry about in a country, and it's happening in the United States big time. Number one, when the party in power starts weaponizing Department of Justice, the legal system, and law enforcement to go after their political enemies or the enemies that just don't agree with their ideology, and like yourself, we're vocal about it.
Yep.
That's very dangerous, number one. And number two, whenever the media goes along and doesn't report the news but plays cover for the people in power,
Yep.
because then people don't really know what's going on. They don't know what's going on.
Yep.
And you look at social media. I've had, I can't tell you how many people, why are you sitting down with Andrew? I said, well, why is Andrew sitting down with me? I was a former gangster. He could say, I don't want to bother with you. I said, why do you ask such a dumb question? I tell him, we're sitting down because we're having a conversation because there's something there to be talked about. And what do you care what I'm sitting? I got to tell you, you know this too. Social media has exposed the lunacy in the world.
Absolutely.
There's no
That's
question
for sure.
about it.
Absolutely.
I mean, some of the things you hear. The problem is people judge you from what they see or what they hear from someone else on social media.
Yep.
And it gets into their brain and you can't get it out.
And this is the ultimate position of the slave mind, because there are people who have a visceral reaction of anger towards me or towards you or towards anyone you can name. And they feel an emotion, right? And emotion's a real thing. Anger is a real thing. They'll feel a visceral emotion for a person they've never met based on an edited news segment from a propaganda organization. They're going to sit there and go, well, this propagandist has told me this, and now I feel rage towards this person I've never met. They haven't investigated anything. They haven't dived down the rabbit hole. They don't care. They just instantly comply and believe. If they can make you feel emotions with a short edited clip, well, then you are the enemy of freedom. You are the exact type of...
Exactly. You're an idiot. All right, let's end the video there. Hit the like, hit the sub, hit all notifications, drop me a donation. Like Hunter M, Adrian, Tom and Bobby, Dylan, Renaissance Press, Brian, Andrew, and Alan. Shout outs to you, most recent Patreon subscriber. Go buy my books at bit.ly/heliosbooks. My content can be early accessed at my Patreon, which is patreon.com/theheliosblog. And of course, if you'd like me to give you good advice, just message me at my email. That's theheliosblog@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, guys, especially if you listen to the end. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.